All right, let's get into it. So I wanted to talk about the whole Corona thing and just, I don't know, I can get around to it, I guess. It's just a lot going on and it keeps changing, but whatever. So, quarantine, first of all, saying it, it keeps devolving from quarantine to quarantine, like quarantine. And every time I say it, it's a 50-50 chance of what's going to come out. But anyway, figure we talk about it. Like, how's everybody handling it? What are you doing? We've seen a lot on the internet. We see a lot of people doing different things. And so just talking about me. But before we get to that part, just in general, I would probably say like the whole Corona situation in America was mishandled seriously. And what we are in the middle of is the results of that, kind of lackluster effort that we had to begin with. And it really is nothing less than we didn't take it seriously as a, country. As far as leadership, I wouldn't say we, we had a choice. Our leadership didn't take it seriously. And look, they have the information. First of all, us as citizens still aren't taking it seriously as it should be. But we don't have the information like they did. Especially you had the examples of other countries going through it. And so they had that and still decided not to act in a way that would have made sense. Now, there is some ideas that I would agree with that I don't honestly think this is how they thought about it. But I do agree that, let's say they tried to strong arm it and was like, yo, we got some information on Corona. Oh, let's lock it down. Let's do the smart thing. And Trump came out and they said, yo, everybody's on lockdown, stay in the house, whatever. That could have ended ugly. That could have ended with what people were worried about. And that is a bunch of fighting. Not like fist fighting, like shooting and like police and army versus citizens. Because if anything has been proven is that we as a country collective don't want to be told what to do. And I heard it early on. A lot of people were just like, man, look at these countries. They got it together and this quickly and this and this. I'm like, but look at the way they ran. We ain't built that way. We not, as much as people want to act like it's superior, we not built in a way where we will take orders. So as a collective, we just too used to being free. And I ain't saying that's right or wrong, but we can't move the other way countries move. And that's, I thought was pretty understandable, seeing as we're not built the way other countries are. And so the ones that have got it together are ones that are more disciplined. And we just fight back. So if the government, the federal government tried to do it, I think, yeah, that would have been, it probably would have ended in some bad stuff. But the way we trickled it out where states were like state by state, so it's like blame the state. I think ultimately that might have been the smarter thing to do as far as getting the heat off the federal government. But I don't know. I do think that's something you got to think about. But at the end of the day, no one took it seriously enough at the top. And even to this day, they aren't testing like they should. That's what it all went back to. Before I even looked into like anything, just presenting the problem, basic problem solving skills. You hearing what was happening, I'm like, well, sounds like we need to test. You can't make a decision on a threat if you haven't evaluated what the threat actually is. And we just never did it. As much as the government said we were and all this, we just didn't do it. And so to me, the biggest issue of all this has been the unknown. We don't know we didn't know how many people had it. Because one of the most like misnomers out there was it's getting worse. The numbers are going up because they started testing more. And the fact of it is, this is what I said from the beginning. Based off what they've said, I would think that most of us, not most, I would think that at least a third have had coronavirus or currently have it and are asymptomatic. And so as we start testing more people, the numbers will rise. And that's what happened. People still panic. And it's like, bro, we told you this was going to happen. But the fact is, no one knew. And then since the tests were still primarily for people that were sick or rich, pretty much, then you still didn't know on a regular basis. Like regular folks, me and you, like I don't know around me who has it. It ain't like, you know, a good majority of, because if we had it to where the majority of us were able to be tested, kind of like STDs, honestly, that's like STDs, like you don't know, you don't walk around with a test, but it's ways of navigating that socially because you know other people know and there's information out there. But with this, there's no information. You don't know if you have it. I don't know if you had it. I don't know if I got it. And so the way people started operating was just, it was off because everybody was scared of everybody. It was like a real life horror movie. And so all the hoarding, all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, I think that's where we messed up. Now, going forward, as people start to say, screw it, let's just open the economy, I'm conflicted. The economy's taking a hit. It's really bad. It is worse than people are giving credit. It's bad. Do I think people are going to die either way? Yes. Do I think we can stay this way as far as just sitting here till a vaccine comes up? No. But I don't know. I don't know if we're going about it the right way. I definitely don't think a state by state up and down thing is good. No, because right now too many people are acting independently. States are acting independently, but then within the state, different schools, different businesses, they're all acting independently. It's just a big mess. There's no uniform. There's no consistency. And so I think that is going to cause more ruckus than the actual virus itself, is the infrastructure of everybody trying to do it separately. But anyway, so quarantine, we've learned a lot. What have you learned about yourself? What have I learned? First of all, my quarantine's been messed up. At first it was kind of cool, but not really. I ended up having just a really bad timing with everything. And I probably say this not just to just talk about it, but you know, I think for me at least, it's important to hear a lot of quarantine, a lot of corona stories, because it lets you insight into how things work. And some things you might not realize needed this type of structure, or some things you might not realize work that way. You know, a lot of people obviously didn't know how government worked on different levels with the stimulus check and everything. And so this kind of gives you insight to how different things, not even that, just economy. So what happened for me, which was messed up, is that this all kind of hit around mid-March. Not only is my birthday end of March, but also I was on spring break. And so I'm already graduated, I guess now, but this was like a month and a half before I was supposed to graduate from my master's program. So that hit me with the job search, because my degree is in college administration, so I would be working in colleges, and a lot of colleges, as we know, shut down. And not only, so at first it was the students stayed home. Then it was like, okay, send the workers home. And so once that happened, then you start seeing searches get frozen because like people didn't want to spend money, or they didn't know if they would have money to spend. And again, it's different from every school. And so some people canceled the position. Some people postponed it. Some people had a hiring freeze. Some people continued as normal. Some people sped up their process. It was all over the place. So I was dealing with that. On top of that, I leased a car, and my lease was up the end of March. And so I had already been working through like that transition. But once this all happened, basically as a student, a full-time student, I technically don't have income. And so I don't really have the same leverage I had when I first got my car, when I was working full-time. Because I left my job and came back to school. So when I was working my job, it was easy. But since I'm a full-time student, it's like, well, you don't have that. And so I'm in the middle of a search, and I had a job lined up, but then they went on a hiring freeze. And so it was like, do you have an offer letter? If you could prove future income, then, we can give you a car based on that. And I'm like, no, it's a hiring freeze. We couldn't do the contract yet as far as like, my payment. And so they were like, we can't do a car. And I was just like, bro, they was like, we don't have no proof of how you could pay for it. And I'm just like, but at the same time, nobody's working. And this obviously was before we started getting all these measurements, stimulus checks, and freezing student loan payments. A lot of talk about rent and mortgage relief, hopefully. So this was before all that. And this was before every car commercial or car company decided to make a commercial and tell you about how you didn't have to pay anything. And so I got screwed in that. I had to get my car back, and I wasn't able to get a new one. That really messed me up. And then what's also messed up, the Monday after that, my former agent called me and was like, yo, did you give it back yet? And I'm like, yeah, I turned it in on time. And he was like, oh man, they just started a new lease extension program. They're like paying you rebates to keep your car. Because obviously, like I was trying to tell them, I'm like, bro, why are you trying to take a customer away at this time? And so then they told me like they're paying people rebates to extend their leases for 3 months and whatever. And I'm like, bro, are you serious? So I call the dealership that I turned my car into, and they was like, yeah, nah, bro, you already turned it in. There's nothing we could do about it. And I'm just like, wow. So I've been stuck without a car. Then I was not planning on like being in this area past graduation because I figured I would have a new job and, move on to something. And so I didn't really have a place to stay. And it was just like, I'm not sure where I'm supposed to go. And especially like, I don't know when any of this was going to be done. And so it's just like, okay, well, do I extend my lease? But, what if I extend my lease through the summer and then April 1, it's like, oh, we got a cure. And so it was just like a lot of waiting. It was a lot of stuff. And so it was bad timing for me all around. It wasn't good timing for anybody. It was really bad timing not to have a car, not to know where you are with the job search, and to be graduating after having debt and not making money for 2 years. And now you don't know if you're going to have a job. And then on top of that, like the leasing places, like I didn't know if they would still ask for rent. And it's like, I don't have a job. So it was all over the place. And so that's kind of how it framed up for me as far as the bad timing. But within quarantine, I don't know, man. I think for me, it's a lot like winter break was. And especially if you're not in school or haven't been in school in a while, maybe you don't like remember. Because I know I didn't remember last year. Like I remember you got all this time off during winter break, but I didn't remember what it felt like to have that much free time. And so that's what it was at first, but I still had homework, which was harder when it was online because you had to really focus and like make sure you're doing it and all that. But after that, and once class is over, it's just like, to me, it's like winter break where I got so much free time. And for me, I use it to create. As you see, more content after classes was done. I try not just this content too, but I write a lot. Well, I usually write a lot. I'm trying to get back into that swing. Winter break, I was on it, pumping out stuff. And so I'm trying to get back into that swing now that I got no more class. And yeah, so I create in those ways. Other things that I write or work on projects. A lot of researching for software content stuff I try to do on this channel. Trying to figure out ways to increase. And really, my thing was, once I finished grad school, Lord willing, I'd be on to a position where I had some money, and then I could start investing back. And I could start hiring, different services to add to the channel. And so just really pre-researching that stuff now, getting quotes and figuring out what I'll be able to do. Hopefully not too long. Recently, I haven't done much activity, but I would say 2 weeks ago, I was pretty much daily outside walking somewhere, getting the walks on. Also, I got to walk to go get groceries and stuff. So, but that's fine. I like that physical activity. I'm glad this wasn't the winter. This would be a different story. But I like that. So I walk around, get that going. Then, some home workouts, do some stuff like that. I think it's important to definitely stay I wouldn't say active, but definitely do something. Well, I guess active is a good word. You don't have to be freaking in shape and going crazy, but I think, staying active is important. Keep the muscles engaged and all that good stuff. So I do some of that. Yeah, I haven't watched as much TV as I thought. What I did is that I play way more Madden than I thought I would. I haven't played Madden in a minute. My thought was, when I get all this free time, I'm about to watch these movies that I've been wanting to rewatch. I'm about to catch up on these shows. I don't do a lot of that. I watch a little bit of stuff towards the end of the night before I go to bed or as I'm going to bed. But other than that, I usually play Madden with some downtime, and I like it. I like it. I need to get to a point where I need some more games. But at the same time, I know when things go back to normal, I'm not going to be a big game head like that. So it's been a struggle trying to find out what game I want. I was thinking about getting Star Wars, the new one. I don't know. I had really good ratings, but I haven't heard a lot about it ever, since it's been out. But I like Star Wars. I like kind of the third person thing, so I might do that. I'm a sucker for customized lightsabers too, so I might have to get that because the Madden's running out a little bit. And 2K, I don't trust 2K no more. But I do like playing Madden. I like playing Madden a lot. Actually, I could keep playing Madden because once I realized you can do a single player mode where you can be any player or create a player, I'm telling you, playing first person, everybody's like, oh, I'm good at Madden. Try playing it in that first person view. I guarantee you it's a very different animal. You can't just run around with linebackers and safeties and make crazy plays. Because you can see the whole field, but when you do the first person view, it's a different animal. So I like that. So yeah, I could continue to play Madden, but that's a lot I do. I cook a lot, mostly to save money. I get all these groceries when I get a chance, and I cook. So I like looking at recipes. I watch hella YouTube too. I should probably throw that out there. I watch more YouTube than I do play Madden. I just watch stuff. But a lot of it be recipes. And so I cook. I don't order out too much, which is funny because I might order out tonight, get some B-dubs. But for the most part, I cook. I know it's a lot of support local restaurants and Grubhub and all that. I don't really do that. And really, I only do B-dubs because they got free delivery. So shout out to them for that. Because I would love to have some money where I'm in a situation where I had a good enough reserves to just sit here and do that, but I don't. So I have to really kind of live, check to check on that. And I like cooking though. I like grilling, especially as it gets warmer. I like grilling. I like doing all that stuff. So I'm cool with it. I stay by myself. A lot of people make a big deal about people that live alone. And I will say I hit that wall sometimes. Early on I did, but I live alone all the time. It's just that it's different. It was different, like, especially early on when I wasn't going outside. It was just different, and you just kind of go a little crazy. But for me, it's kind of the same. I text, Facebook Messenger, my friends and stuff. I've never been a big video caller. I've done a lot of interviews on Zoom, a lot of work-related stuff for my graduate assistant position on Zoom. And so I still, I've used Zoom and video conferencing, Skype and Teams. I see people. But other than that, I got a little bit into the Facebook video call system now with my friends. But other than that, I think I communicate the same with that. And then for me, it was about, with the information I had, it was about being smart. So for me, I understood as a respiratory thing, older people with pre-existing conditions, and children were vulnerable. And so I just kept a small group of people that weren't in contact with anyone like that. Like I'm not in a demographic for a lethal threat. If you're not in the demographic, I also don't come in contact with anybody in the demographic, and you don't, so we can hang out. That's pretty much how I went about it. Because at worst, you'll give me the corona and I'll be able, hopefully, to survive it, but I'm also not in contact to spread it with anybody. And so that's how I figured it. And so I had about 2 or 3 people that I would like physically hang out with. But it was never like, let's just have a party or I don't care. I never had that mentality. It was still being smart about it. So I had my few friends that I take a walk with or cook with or chill with. And so now the school year's ended, that's different because a lot of people have left. But I try to do physical face-to-face contact. I think it's very important. And I was actually on a big face-to-face contact kick before the whole Corona thing. Like I had this big epiphany. Like I started logging out of my Facebook X amount of times a week and turning off my phone. Not turning it off, but I got to a point where it was just like, I talked to my circle and it was like, yo, if you want to continue like to be like day-to-day friends, you got to start adding phone calls or face-to-face visits. Like I got to get away from the screen. I got to start making life more tangible. And funny enough, with this, everything has become intangible and all about the screen. So that's kind of undid my whole philosophy. But once we get back to safe, I'll do that again. But for right now, it isn't so much about the face-to-face contact. I think it's just about staying busy. It's about having a routine. Even without a routine, I started to form a routine. And people, I think, have realized that we're creatures of habit. As much as people don't want to say it, we're creatures of habit. And a lot of people need routine. So there's all that. It's just been interesting watching people. It's been interesting. I think a lot of people have used this as an excuse to do the things they've wanted to do. Like, you know what? Actually, I won't get into those jokes. I won't do my stand-up here, but I do think there's some people that's just like there's a lot of people like the people that like the ghost people or not actually hang out or hook up or be around. Like, I think this has been perfect for them. It's just like, nope, I'm social distancing, quarantining. Nope, I can't do that. And it's like they didn't have the guts to say they just don't want to do it. now this is a perfect excuse. But then there's the people that's like, oh, I'm an introvert. I don't like people. I hate people. And then they going crazy. And like, I got to get outside. I got to see some people. Then you got the people, I'm a social butterfly. And they just been chilling at home like ain't nothing been happening. And of course, you got the whole thing with the teachers and everybody talking crap. Now they got to teach their kids. And they're just like, this is hard. And so it's an interesting world. A lot of lessons learned. But the last thing I'll say to end it is the worst part of all this so far is these freaking companies and these commercials just popping up out of in these uncertain times. Things are very uncertain. And it's just like, come buy a car. Like, bro, get out of here. Now, I need a car, but most people don't need no car right now, bro. It's just funny. Like, people, even they not working in the office, they're finding a way to make people put together something to capitalize off suffering. And it's just crazy. So, but yeah, go to the comment section. Let me know how you've been handling the quarantine and what have you learned doing all this isolation. So share it around, get the conversation started, thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you for listening.